Hey guys, how's it going? Sam here and welcome back to the channel. So today I'd like to discuss how to improve with every painting. Before we get into that, I'd like to run through the piece that you'll be watching today. So the piece is called Snake Charmer. I wanted to create a illustration, more like a book cover illustration of a female character, mainly because I haven't created many female characters. So the idea is she's a bit of a siren, so she kind of tries to seduce you into this kind of swamp land. I wanted her to be seductive, but quite dangerous at the same time, so I didn't want her to come across as too sexy, even though she's mostly naked. So it was a case of trying to juggle her coming across as seductive and somewhere where you'd want to maybe be drawn in, but also see a danger there as well. So yeah, as you watch this video unfold, I'll kind of discuss it as it goes through, but the main thing I want to talk about today is how to improve with every piece. So this basically comes from me with one basic philosophy that I've taken on recently, and that is focusing on one aspect of a painting rather than everything. I found over the years I try to focus on everything with every painting, so I try to improve the composition and I try to make it a really good anatomy, and the value ranges are good and the colours are good and I want it to be dynamic, and I find it always ends up a bit muddy. I'm never happy with a piece, something always goes wrong and I can never really work out what. And I think the reason for that is because I'm trying to tackle too many things and I can't tell what has worked and what hasn't. So with this piece I wanted to focus on one aspect, one thing to focus on and really get that right. And I know by the end of the painting I've either achieved that or I haven't, because that's all I'm judging. And that for me with this painting was value ranges. So as you saw at the start of this video, there was a 3D model with a pose. Now that is from Portrait Studio. There's an artist called Istbrak, I believe. Sorry if I've got that name wrong. And basically she has a piece of software which is developed with some colleagues for reference, and you can basically pose a male or a female and set up lighting. So it's an amazing tool. I can't recommend it enough. I've used it a couple of times now and it really is useful. Now normally if I was doing an illustration for a client, I wouldn't have painted over the model. I would have put it to one side and then tried to create a more dynamic pose. But for this I wanted to treat it as a learning tool, so I would paint over the model and then my anatomy is done. So it's not going to be the most dynamic, it's not going to be the most interesting, but at least I know it is relatively correct and I can kind of ignore it. As I said at the start, I'm looking to focus on just value ranges, so I don't want to spend too much time worrying about the anatomy, because I know with anatomy I'm not great at it, so I would have to keep coming back and trying to rework over something where I know it's wrong. So that's one thing, so that the model is done for me and then I can start sketching over the model. So composition, I chose very basic composition that I know I can achieve, a simple background, not much floor to deal with, only one character in it. So again, that's kind of been done for me. I focused on the background, got it out of the way really quickly and made sure my value ranges were right. And the value ranges were easy to achieve because it's essentially, the background is essentially a wall of plants and then the floor is a swamp. So as long as I make the character pop out from that, then that's all I needed to do. So with that I made the background really dark and I made the character light with some dark clothing to add contrast. So yeah, to put it into perspective, I've played golf for a few years now and I've always been told change one thing at a time. And I am impatient, so I'd always try to change more than one thing on the golf course. So as an example, I would go down to a local golf course and I'm like, okay, well I've seen a video that I need to change my golf grip. So that's great, I've changed my golf grip and now know that's correct. And I've seen people kind of duck their shoulders in more, so I'll try that as well. And also twist my hips more and try to change how I impact the ball. Maybe I'll try to go a bit faster as well. And this results in me completely fluffing up the shot or missing it completely. And I have no idea what I did right and what I did wrong, because I didn't take the advice I was given. I didn't only change one aspect of the game. If I literally just turned up and went, okay, I'm going to change my grip, and that worked or it didn't, I then know the grip either works or it doesn't. It either needs more work or it doesn't. If it's perfect and it improves my game, then great, keep that grip and then go on to the next thing, which might be the swing. Anyway, that's enough about golf, but it's the same thing with art. If you focus on one aspect in a painting, then you know if you've achieved it or not, and if it needs work or not. Whereas I find if you focus on too many things, you end up with a kind of a muddy painting, or sometimes you end up with a good painting, but you don't know how you achieved it, because it feels like a bit of a fluke. I've had that in the past where I've created a piece and it works better than other pieces that I worked on at that time. Not saying it's good by any stretch, but it was better than my other work, and I couldn't work out how I'd done it because I wasn't capable at the time of breaking down each element and working on them in the right order. And that's what it is with these professionals that you see that just amazing work. They understand each aspect, so they understand how to create a good composition because they've done it so many times, and they understand how to create good anatomy because they've done it so many times. And I find a bit of a shortcut in that learning process, and a way to learn it slightly faster is to do one at a time. So this week I'm focusing just on the value ranges. Next week maybe I'll focus just on composition, and the week after anatomy, whatever. And then maybe the fourth week try to combine the three and see how it works. Now this is something I've learned quite recently. I haven't done this for a long period of time, so I can't say if it is the best way to learn. It's just another thing to consider when you're starting a piece, and I found it really worked for me. It worked for this painting. I definitely find the value ranges of this piece are better than my previous work, and I know that was something I really needed to work on. So just to clarify, what I would class as good value ranges would be that the painting isn't muddy, in a sense that the character breaks away from the background. So you find that if you look at it from a distance, you can still see the character's silhouette, which is what I would class as making it successful. So as this painting kind of finishes up, I'd like to talk about what was good and what was bad. So as I said, value ranges were the main focus, so that's good. The colour ranges, I'm quite happy with the colour. I didn't put too much focus on it. I knew I wanted a greeny yellow, kind of a sickly background that was quite dull, and then the character had these red pops to make her really stand out, to add contrast. So I'm quite happy with that. Obviously the anatomy I can't really judge. I'd have to view that as a negative because I didn't really do it. So in the next piece I'm definitely going to paint the anatomy from scratch, because there's nothing wrong with it, but it is quite wooden. It's quite stale as a pose. She doesn't really sell anything. I don't think the idea of her being seductive but dangerous kind of comes across in her pose, and it should. So that's definitely where I'll maybe focus next time. So each week I'm going to make a recommendation of things that I've kind of been watching or been using as inspiration for the week. So obviously Portrait Studio is awesome, go check that out. And also I would like to add a second, TED Talks are amazing for art and everything else. I tend to put them on while working, so yeah, definitely check those out. So that's it guys, that's the final piece. I'm quite happy with it. I'd love to hear your thoughts, if you think the process I used was good or bad, if you think I shouldn't have painted over the top of a 3D model, if you think that's lazy or cheating. Either way, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below. So thanks for watching guys, catch you in the next one.